All right, the whole idea of knowing that we're in the last days, the whole idea of knowing what time it is predicated on basically one main thing. Not just one thing, but there's one main thing to understand that we can take from the Bible to know what time it is, okay? Otherwise, you have no conception of time. You're basically in the dark and walking around in the dark making guesses. And this one thing is in Genesis chapter 6, verse 3. God made a prophecy there about a 6,000 year period from the fall of Adam. Okay? This is the foundation for not just looking around and saying, things are kind of getting bad. No. This is the foundation for understanding what time it is, literally. Okay? And in this prophecy, God said, "And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. Okay? Now, what does that mean? What is the 120 years? Because if you say, well, it only means that man will live till 120, can't do it. That's not biblical truth, because before the flood, people lived hundreds of years. After the flood, people lived hundreds of years. Abraham himself lived 175 years. Okay? And other people lived way longer than that, hundreds of years after the flood. So what is he talking about? Well, what he's talking about in Genesis chapter 6, verse 3 is jubilees. 120 jubilees. A jubilee is 50 years. 120 times 50 is 6,000 or 6,000 years. Notice the number 6 is the number of man. Man was created on the 6th day along with the beast. Revelation chapter 13 verse 18 says that the number of a man is the number of a beast. 666. 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 18. Look at Genesis 6:3. 6 times 3 is what? 18. This all matches up with the prophecy of 6,000 years of man. God's spirit striving with fallen man, right? Contending. We see Jacob wrestling with the angel of the Lord. That's a picture of the 6,000 years. Wrestling with God, right? So this is the foundation. If you can figure this 6,000 year period out, then you can know where we're at. Not exactly, because you never know, there's wiggle room, but we can know pretty much where we're at. And that's what I have been talking about for a long time. Now, the first thing that you have to do is figure out what age did Adam fall. This is the key to this. Because it's not from the day that Adam was created that this 6,000 years started. It's from his fall. Because that's when God's spirit started contending with man. It wasn't contending with man before that. They were, it was a perfect relationship. But after the fall, there was a struggle, a contention, a wrestling between fallen man and God. So what age did Adam fall? Well, I've talked about in the Bible how to see unbelievable truths, you look at the patterns. We know that God declares the end from the beginning. So if we want to know the end, we can look at the beginning. Okay? And it's all there in patterns, more deeper than we could even understand. Some of the things that I found, it's amazing. And we know that these patterns repeat themselves. Ecclesiastes 1:9, Ecclesiastes 3:15, and of course Isaiah 46:10. God declares the end from the beginning. So what age did Adam fall? The number 33 is the biblical number that is very pronounced. Okay? Jesus died and rose from the grave at the age of 33. If you look at the number 33 in the Strong's Concordance, it literally means age. See that? There were a third, which is 33% and a third of the angels fell. There are 66 books in the Bible, which leaves 33%, or 33 and a third. The number 33, I believe, is when Adam fell. Now we know who uses the number 33. You have to remember that everything that God has and uses, the opposition takes and twists just a bit. You see? So a lot of people, when they think of the number 33, it's a bad thing because we know who uses that number, right? If you don't know, well, you'll get it. But God in his Bible pronounces that number too in the correct way, in the godly way. So I believe that Adam fell at 33. So now, all you have to do to figure out what time it is, use the 6,000 year prophecy, in which we also see that prophecy in the 6 days of creation and the seventh day of rest. Because 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 8 says that a day is as 1,000 years with the Lord and 1,000 years is as a day with the Lord. See that? So 6 days of creation showing us 6,000 years, right? And then the seventh day, which is the 1,000-year millennial reign, is the seventh day of rest with God's 7 days of creation. Well, 6 days of creation, 7th day of rest. See, it's all connected. It's all connected. So if we start at 33 years old, that Adam fell, and we go 6,000 years, we come to 2033. Now, all my videos I'm showing how Christ comes back at 2029, 2030. Not the rapture, but what most people call the second coming. Okay? I say the second coming because everybody understands that. So, the reason for this is because he cuts the time short. This is talked about in Matthew 24. So if it would be at the end of the full 6,000 years, I believe it would be 2033. But here's how God cut the time short, I believe. Jesus came to earth not on 0, but on 3 BC. So he came 3 years back, right? From 0, I guess you could say. Right? So he can cut the time short at the end. So instead of coming back at 2033, he's got 3 years leeway, 2030. Get it? Agenda 2030. They're setting the clocks all for 2030. Why? Because that's the return of Jesus Christ. Again, not the rapture, the return. Okay? So we see the foundation here for the clock. For anybody throwing any times and dates out there, this is the foundation for how you can figure that out. And it's really very simple once you understand the tool to use. Once it's brought to light, okay, I see, and it's simple. It's easy. Okay? The number 120 in the Strong's Concordance is Adam, and the definition is man, or mankind. And if you'll notice that in the Bible, you'll see the number 120. This pattern of 120. Again, this is how God leaves us patterns and clues and shows us mysteries. Okay? Israel had to wander the wilderness for 40 days. Then it turned into 40 years. And then from the cross, which was 30 AD, now they're in the wilderness for 40 Jubilees, 2,000 years. 30 AD to 2030 AD. But you could even go to 2033, however you want to look at it. We have to take into account God cutting the time short. But again, there's 40, 40, and 40. 40 days, 40 years, 40 jubilees equals 120, going back to Genesis 6:3. You see, this is the awesome stuff. This is the grand, awesome stuff that you'll never hear. Almost never. 98, 99% of the time, you won't hear this in a building. Remember, you are the temple of God. Ye, the true believers, are the temple of God. We make it up, not a building made with hands. Acts 7:48. The Holy Spirit of truth is in us. That is 1 Corinthians 3:16. Okay? Proverbs chapter 25, verse 2, the KJV. It is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. Sweet chariot, yeah, come for to carry me home, yeah. Sweet love, sweet chariot, yeah, coming for to